we're feeling anxious, we're feeling tense, we're feeling annoyed and angry. And if we can put that on the shelf and instead get curious, can you tell me more about what's causing this? Why are you staying out an hour after curfew? Or why are you doing X when you agreed to Y? I think we really need to listen.
Each family is so different, and their communication relationship with their children vary. So if they're already teenagers and in the families, maybe the challenges are that their children and they've kind of drifted apart a little bit. Perhaps they're not connecting. Maybe children aren't used to having conversations with their parents and don't like to sit with their parents. So what are some of the ways parents could now find ways to connect with their children and have these conversations, have these opportunities for training?
Yeah, I think when you're feeling the disconnection, the first thing we need to do is pull back together and build the bridge so we're connected again. Because if you don't have the if you don't have the connection, nothing else you do is going to make a difference. So ways that you can connect. It was always kind of amazing to me how many kids I worked with who were struggling either academically or behaviorally in school. When we talk about what was going on for them, so many of them would say, I just wish that we could eat a meal together as a family. It doesn't have to be every night. But my friend over here who seems to get along with their family, like they eat together a lot of times. I just want to have a meal with my family. And so you wouldn't think that matters to kids. These are junior high kids, 12, 13, 14-year-olds saying, I just wish we could eat a meal together. I think meals are a great way to connect with each other. And they can be long meals or short meals, depending on the schedule. But it's a time to connect. I think, doing things together, pull out cards or board games or go out and play a game together if you like the more physical games. I often suggest doing homework with your kids. And I don't mean for your kids, but I mean, we're all at the table. You've got your work. I've got my work. We can sit at the table and I can lean over and say, hey, what are you working on? And they can say, what are you giggling about, Mom? Or, tell me more about that. Or if they look like they're kind of drifting and struggling, I can say, oh, it looks like something might be hard. Do you need some help? Can you help me understand what's going on? Like, it's little snatches of conversation we have while we're getting our work done. Reading together, even side by side. If your kids have a reading assignment they have to do, you get a book or a magazine or your ebook or whatever, read next to them or take turns reading. When they're tired, they're probably reading words and nothing is sticking in the middle. So even if you're not a very good out loud reader, I really encourage parents to take turns reading paragraphs or pages with their kids, because it gets you involved with whatever they're working on at school. So you know more about what they're struggling with, more about what's interesting to them. I learned all sorts of stuff from, reading with my kids while they were growing up. So I just think finding lots of different ways to have a few minutes together at a time so we have opportunities to feel connected, even if we're not talking to each other. It doesn't have to be words that connect us. It can be just being together while you do your thing and I do my thing. So I just think parents can be creative. And as you gradually feel more of this, then you can have meaningful conversations, again, in short snatches. Set the timer for 15 minutes. Kiddo, I just need 15 minutes of your time. I promise if it goes longer, we'll stop the conversation and we'll pick it up again later. But you set the timer and tell me when it goes off. I promise to stop. And then we stop. So practicing integrity, honoring their time, honoring their needs, and modeling for them what we want from them, I think is a really important part of that puzzle.
I appreciate what you said, just doing things for them, or, that's not what we're looking at, because when we do that, it really handicaps the child, like it takes away their tool and self-esteem. And I appreciated when my children were younger, things that we did together, such as shopping. It is important, or small things, is, okay, what would you like to eat today? Involving them in decision-making. What types of groceries do we need to have in order for all of us to have something that we enjoy eating? And taking turns, it just invites folks to connect with their children in cooking. Hey, would you like to help me for 20 minutes? Let's cook together. And having that family meeting or conversation or having a meal together. And they're not driving sometimes yet.
Right.
So when they're not driving, that opportunity, taking them home from school, are the best moments to connect. So what are some of the things that you did with your children as you drove home in a car? What types of connection conversations could parents have that would bring that gap a little bit shorter when the connection is missing?
If I had a do-over, one of the things that I noticed about myself, I don't know, maybe halfway through those teenage years, was that a lot of the conversation that I would bring up was school related. How was your day? What are you doing? What do you have to do? Blah, blah, blah. School, 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 school. And my life was school, right? Because I worked in the school. I allowed it to monopolize our conversation too much. So my learning around that is to recommend to parents, when you are having connecting time, don't talk about the have-tos and the shoulds and the ought-tos of life. Talk about other things. So it could be the song that's playing on the radio, listen to a station they like, have them tell you who the artist is, have them decipher the lyrics for you because I can never understand them. Talk about something in the news. Talk about something that was good in your day. What made you proud? What was hard for you? What are you feeling happy about or not so happy about? Those are more deeper level conversations. And I think being side to side with our kids, especially with boys, is more comfortable for them to share more deeper things with than when we're looking eye to eye. There's less pressure somehow when we're side by side. So going for a walk together, or again, doing an activity together while we talk about conversation. We used to play card games and board games, and we still do. My kids are grown up. They're in their 20s. When we're together, we play card games, we play board games, we laugh, we talk about the game, and all these other little conversations kind of slip in as we're playing the game. So I think doing and the talking comes more naturally with the activity is a combination of things that can build that connection together.
And the boundary conversations can be had much easily when you've had that connection and they're in the car talking about what's going on and we have their interest in mind. We now know because we've begun to have these conversations, and not too long, we'll know a lot about their friends and we'll know their interest. And then when it comes to boundaries, it usually starts with, hey, someone's having a dinner party, or Mom, could I do this or that, or my parent. And that's where that boundary, I think, will be very easy to include them in that conversation to say, hey, so what do you think? So you want to stay out till 11 and you have this homework and you have this test coming up. Let's figure out the plan together. Like, when are you going to do this or that? And we can teach them some of these skills on managing their time. Because children, they just believe at this age, not that they're not creative. I mean, they're very creative. Not that they're not really caring of their work, but they think time is not a concept that's very clear, right? Well, I'll get it done tomorrow morning, or I'll do it tomorrow afternoon, because they really believe they can do it. But in reality, when it comes down to it at the last minute, sometimes there is this overwhelm. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? And they just need that guidance that you spoke about. And just talk to me a little bit more about boundaries. And what if the boundaries that we're setting are being pushed because that's what happens at this age?
Then I think we come back to the drawing board and we say, we agreed to X. You're not following what you agreed to. I need to know more about what that's about for you. And so we're feeling anxious, we're feeling tense, we're feeling annoyed and angry. And if we can put that on the shelf and instead get curious, can you tell me more about what's causing this? Why are you staying out an hour after curfew? Or why are you doing X when you agreed to Y? I think we really need to listen and be curious about what's going on for our kids. And again, when we're connected, they're more likely, they may not tell us every little deep thing, but they're at least more likely to tell us the general ideas of what's going on for them. And so then we can say, I wonder if you'd be willing to hear what's going on for me. And most of the time they will, because we've listened to them. So if we have the relationship, we'll give that back to us, and we can say, here are my concerns, and keep them bullet pointed. Don't get over emotional about it, but just say, I'm really concerned about how are we going to solve this problem? And so I think we just keep coming back to the solution table until we find what's going on here. And I think the truth of it is that most kids, when they have a connected relationship with their parent, they're not trying to be bad, but generally their priorities are different, and something else is going on that they are figuring out. Here's what it's like to do things this way, do things my way. I need to explore that possibility. And so sometimes we have to let them try things their own way, as long as it's not a big safety concern. And if they flop, they flop. They learn from it. They can come back and be resilient and try, well, what else could I do next time? So I think when there's safety involved, we need to step in with a firmer touch. If it's really a matter of them exploring their own values and possibilities, we need to let them be able to do that, because when we try to push too hard, they're going to push harder back. And then we're in a power struggle and we lose the relationship. We're here instead of here. So I think there's a lot of judgment that has to go on the part of the parent. Am I parenting from a place of fear, which is easy for me to do, by the way? And what am I like? Who am I being when I'm parenting from a place of fear, instead of parenting from a place of trust and commitment to helping my child develop the skills they need to grow up and be independent, capable, resilient adults? So when I put those two things in the box, who am I being when I'm parenting from fear versus who am I being when I'm parenting from trust and an eye for the skill development here, I'm being two different people. And so I just really need to put a lid on that fear thing and say, okay, how can I be with my child in a way that helps them feel trusted and empowered, as long as they're safe?
Yeah. And I think that part, again,
it's not easy.
No, and it's
hard,
empathy, right?
Yeah.
And we want the best for our children. So it comes from that. And then sometimes without knowing, we act out on how come, and we have this pressure of the world. We're seeing other children and we're looking at things at our work, right? So types of people that are getting promoted or whatever that might be, we come home, we see our child do a certain thing and we just go right on it. And it's very natural. And I think what you just shared is really impactful. It's that connection piece, making agreements with them, having this space where we're creating safe space side by side. You spoke about for men, young men, and having game time or just walking, just including them in decision making for a connecting piece that goes a long way. And then when there are some boundaries to be made, we can do that. And we're going to lose it, like you said. You do, and I know I did. And that doesn't make us a bad parent or a good parent because we're nice. There is that boundary, and we're humans, and we're going to behave in all these different ways. At the end of the day, what are some of the skills we want to teach our children? And also have that relationship where our children are okay when they make mistakes, and we're there for them to support them versus criticize them. Because when we do that fear piece you spoke about, we kind of create that disconnect a little bit. And this is a very powerful conversation. And I wish when I was raising my teens, of course, I had many friends. However, we get into the similarities as well. Oh, yeah, that's happening to me. However, when we have these conversations that's objective, that we're humans, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to lose it, and we can still make a repair with our child. We can go back and say, hey, you know what? I was so emotional and I lost it and I said X, Y, and Z to you. The bottom line is I love you. I care about you. And what I really wanted is for you to succeed in your grades, and I wanted to help you. And instead, I criticized you for not knowing your information. Perhaps what I could do in the future is sit down with you. What would you like to do in the future when you need homework help? And those types of problem solving with our children just create such leadership skills. And thank you for talking about this topic.